Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul. And the first Logan Paul, you were saying before, a real smackable face, but he really knows how to use it. He does a big smile, and he knows he's upsetting you. And then he does the Shawn Michaels thing down into the ring. He's a great heel.
Well, Rollins was the babyface. And I thought it would be just the opposite in Hollywood.
Really?
I thought so because I would think Logan Paul, media influencer with his brother. You know what made them famous? I read.
Go on.
They were in Japan, and they went out in this forest, and they found a guy that had hung himself. Did you read that? You know that?
I remember that very clearly at the time. Yeah, there was a forest that's very well known for people committing suicide. I don't know if it's for religious reasons or spiritual reasons or whatever, but a lot of people there go to kill themselves, and they found like basically a fresh corpse there.
Sure did. So, and that's when they, because everybody has to find social media at one point. And I was just this is about 5 years ago, I guess, 6. And I knew it was there, but I was kind of getting into it. And I started reading about these guys. And then I read that. And so that actually put them on the map for me. Now they've done all this other stuff. Now they got into boxing. And they're upsetting the boxing people because the guys that fight them, they make more money fighting the Pauls on their setups than they made in championship fights under Don King and all the other guys. And what the Paul boys said, he said, because they're stealing your money. They get first count, and they'll say, we'll pay you this. But they guarantee them, I don't know, a couple $1 million, I guess. And yeah, they go and fight.
Has there been a celebrity or anyone like this who comes into wrestling and is that good? I know Pat McAfee was excellent as well. But, I mean, Logan Paul's just come in. He's come into a main event match, essentially. And he's with Seth Rollins, who's one of the best in the world.
Well, he's a great athlete. But let me kind of back you up a little bit. How long do you think they've known about this match?
They'll have known about it for months. I don't know how long they would have trained for it, though. What do you think?
4 months.
You think they would have practiced 4 months on and off to get it down?
Off and on, yes, I do. Because this is a big stage. You can't go out there and do a Shane McMahon and break your leg or pull your quad. You can't go out there and go, oh, and you go down, because people are going to remember that. All the eyes of the world, especially during WrestleMania week, it's such an event, and it's in the culture now, all over the world. So you can't go out there and fall flat on your ass. Oh yeah, I think I'll tell you another match I think they worked on a lot, and we'll talk about it in a minute. Mm-hmm. Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, they worked on that one. They worked on the tag team match with the Usos and Sammy and Kevin. They worked on that. I'm sure Roman and Cody worked on that one because it's too big a showcase to not do that. So if they had to go down to Florida, they would go to Florida or wherever they would have to go. And they put time and they put effort in it. And I will say one thing about this new group of WWE guys. They're dedicated, and I think they want to go out there and actually it's like when you go out there and have a match, you go back to the back and you look at the guy standing there waiting to go out and you say, hey, top that.
I have a match nitpick for you, and I want you to tell me if you agree or not. It sort of reminded me of a few years ago when Shane McMahon and AJ Styles opened up one of the WrestleManias a few years ago. And at the time, Shane McMahon went toe-to-toe with AJ Styles, move for move, hold for hold. And I was thinking, Shane, you're like in your late 40s, but you've managed to book yourself into sort of being like a world-beating technician. And I'm not saying the same thing for this exactly, but Logan Paul seemed to out-wrestle Seth Rollins for a very long time before Seth sort of got his... You know what I mean? I felt like if you're going to like stun him, maybe for a couple of moves, fine, but then Seth, who's clearly the veteran and clearly got all the experience and is the better wrestler, should take over a bit earlier. Is that me being too nitpicky, Dutch?
No, it's not. But in a fan's mind, let me put you back in a fan's mind. Mm-hmm. Logan Paul is an athlete. Mm-hmm. Shane McMahon is not. And when you saw him going toe-to-toe with AJ, you're saying, wait a minute. AJ's a world-class wrestler, like one of the top 10 in the world in execution, and you're staying right with him? That's not believable. And it's not. And you're not the only ones that thought that. Now, he made Shane look good, and Shane liked it. But to the wrestling fans, I think they did more damage than they did good. Did AJ win that match?
I think so.
I hope.
I hope so, yeah.
And Logan Paul is an athlete. They know that. They know he's a skateboarder. They know he's a boxer. They know this, that, and the other. So for him to actually hold his own, and they have said that, he's a natural to wrestling. They've said that on the air because he's made massive strides in a short amount of time. And he goes in the ring. I'll say one thing about him. He's not afraid to do stuff.
No.
He's not afraid to do it. And which endears him to WWE fans. See, wrestling fans go through their whole life, and everybody listening to us today know what I'm talking about. And you bring up wrestling, they go, that wrestling, that bullshit. But if they had watched WrestleMania, some of those matches, you'd have to say, wow. I don't know. Because I had some friends over that came to visit my daughter, and they were watching it. And I was watching some of it, but I was on my computer, basically, and that's listening to it. No, they were watching Raw, and they were going nuts. Now, these are fans, and they're fans that, like every fan, you grow up hearing a few things when you were a kid. Take your vitamins, say your prayers, and wrestling's fake. Yeah, you just grow up with that. They said, nah, Was it that way in the UK?
They didn't tell me that when I was watching. Only when high school's different here. You start high school at 11 here. It was only when I went to high school that people started questioning it. Or some people say, "Oh, it's fake. Why are you watching it?" But I just didn't tell people when I was in, younger. But I didn't know. I didn't know till I was maybe not embarrassingly, about 11. And do you know who ruined it for me? The Rock.
Who?
The Rock ruined it for me, and I'll tell you exactly the match. So that guy, whatever happened to him? And he was in a ladder match with Triple H at SummerSlam 1998, and I remember I must have watched that tape 100 times, and then one time I just caught him throwing a kick that you could have parked a bus in that gap. I was like, well, congratulations, Rock, you ruined it for me.
Kevin Dunn wasn't there. He would have come with that.
Oh yeah, he would have gone cut.
And then you're so dizzy, you got to go throw up and then come back. But they can watch this latest WrestleMania, and they have tightened it up so much. I hate to keep saying this line, they'll believe till you give them a reason to disbelieve. You were believing till they missed that kick with this bar.
Yeah.
Now, some of those kicks, especially the Usos throw, and I'm not a big fan of the super kicks. I like them. They look great till you throw too many of them. And it's not the Usos don't throw too many. Who does throw too many are the two brothers in AEW. What are their names?
Young Bucks.
The Young Bucks. It's like damn Super Kick City with them. It's kick. But guess what? They never beat nobody with a kick. If you kept punching somebody, eventually you'd knock them out, wouldn't you? They can kick people, and they can continue to do things. That is what the separation of reality and fantasy is in wrestling. But, and I'll get to this in a minute. Did you see Rhea Ripley and the Charlotte Flair move?
The German suplex you're going to talk
Oh,
about.
God.
I promise you we'll talk about it. I promise you we'll talk about it. Before we get off Logan Paul, the big highlight was at the end. They've got the dancing Prime energy drink bottle. I wrote it down and called it that it was going to be KSI. Did you know who KSI was?
I didn't know who he was.
Basically, he's another social media influencer, so yeah.
Social media influencer. And what's he do?
Influencers on social media.
He influences people. Okay,
that's all I know. No, he did boxing. He did boxing with Jake Paul. That might have been both of their first boxing match ever. And then Jake Paul continued it. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and then KSI won, I think. And then Jake Paul carried on with it, and KSI not so much, or not as high profile. But as you say, like the most high risk maneuver on maybe all of the WrestleManias was Logan Paul doing the jump on the table onto KSI, and the way it looked spectacular, but it looked very sort of low risk at the same time. It was very well managed risk-wise, it looked to me.
Well, the way they shot it, shooting up, he looked like a half mile away. And the way he shot it, he was shooting back over his shoulder like to get him coming down. And then, of course, but you could see that if you paid attention, Rollins had his hands on that so he could grab him right when he started to come. Boom. And as soon as he looked away, he was going to pull him. Well timed. Well timed.
Yeah. And also with KSI, he had that really, I bet he had like padding under it as well, but like a very padded, the bottle, the energy drink outfit as well. So it looked fairly safe. Who? KSI?
Yeah.
He's a black guy, always wears a bandana.
Okay. That tells me a lot.
No, fair enough.